Okay, welcome back to Secrets of Role Mangging, the weekly video series where I discuss our Call of Cthulhu campaign, Masks of Nyarlathotep, in detail. We get down to all the deep, nitty-gritty background goings-on, all the interesting information of what makes this campaign so damn cool. And, yes, so that the session itself, as I assume you all watched the actual role-mangging, was not that interesting. You know, they were just traveling across the sea. But this Secrets of Role-mangging is going to be very interesting, because I'm going to say everything that's going on in London, which is a big chapter, plenty of stuff to talk about, so it's going to be quite the loaded episode. Let's see, talking about stuff that's not on the board. Let's see. Yeah, so they broke Charlie and Mifune out of jail, or they got him out on bail, they got him out of the case and everything. And I didn't want to make that too complicated. And if it weren't for Reginald, I don't know if they would have been really able to do it. I mean, I wanted it to be difficult, but not that complicated. I think some DMs would roleplay through that entire thing, and you would have to go to the court, or you'd have to make these phone calls, and you'd roleplay out all the conversations, and do all that stuff. But like I said, I want them to get to London, alright? That is my goal. That was my goal for this session, was just land on British soil. And so, just a few rolls, of which Ziggy did very well on, so I was like, yeah, sure. They, logistically, sure, it probably makes no sense that they would ever just wipe this court case, and sure, you can leave the country, a young man is dead, but go ahead. But, Reginald Steinway, he's got enough clout that, sure. So, yeah, I didn't want to make that too complicated. What else? Nothing else specifically I wanted to talk about. The passports thing, somebody did mention, I think it was Alfred that mentioned the passports. Like I said in the other one, I was wondering if they would think about it. And so, sure enough, Alfred did. Ren, I guess, is just good like that. Or he secretly watches these videos, I don't know. But, yeah, so he thought of the passports, so Charlie was the only one that really needed a passport. Well, Mifune. Charlie and Mifune were the only ones that really needed to get one. And Charlie, it's not like a difficult process. So, sure, go ahead. Mifune, yeah, I always gotta put down the black man, so I think he was the one that actually had to roll to see if he could get it. Because for one, he's black, and two, he just recently got off a case, a murder case or whatever, which he wasn't really involved in at all, but hey, it's the 20s, man, they don't care. And so he failed that roll, he couldn't get it. And, that might not be a huge issue. He might still be able to get a passport in London, perhaps. I don't know how that all works. I don't know if you have to be a citizen of where you are to get a passport. I've tried to do plenty of research on this, but it's very difficult to find period-specific information about, laws and stuff. I can find passport stuff, but most of it's based in modern day. I guess, I don't know, I might have to do more deeper digging to find specific information about what it was like to get passports in the 20s, but it's not a huge deal. I don't think any of us are really caring about historical accuracy. So the main thing I want to talk about before we get over to the board is Nyarlathotep. He's right in the title of the campaign. He's obviously the major player here. And so I figured I would kind of discuss Nyarlathotep and give some information for those who are a little unclear. So when talking about Nyarlathotep, there's basically the facts, and then there's each person's kind of speculation, opinion, their own version of him, I guess. So the facts of Nyarlathotep is that he is an outer god. Basically, there's the elder gods and there's the outer gods. Elder gods are things like Cthulhu, Hastur, Atlach-Naka. You know, kind of all the not the minor ones, but the more terrestrial-based ones, I guess you would say. And then there's the outer gods, which are Azathoth, Yog-Sothoth, Nyarlathotep. These are the big boys. You know, these are the ones that command cosmic power. I mean, you compare Azathoth to Cthulhu, it's no comparison. Despite what people will tell you, Cthulhu is not that powerful in the grand scheme of things. And so, Nyarlathotep is an outer god. And specifically, he's known as the Crawling Chaos and the messenger of the outer gods. And so, he is kind of the... I don't want to say lackey to Azathoth, because that in some way implies that Nyarlathotep is in any way kind of inferior to him. But he's kind of Azathoth's spokesman. I don't want to get into my personal views on him yet, but Nyarlathotep is closely linked to Azathoth, and that's all that really fact is. How that relationship goes is dependent on your personal view. And Nyarlathotep is the only one of the... Really, only one of the Mythos... The only one of all the Mythos entities, all the gods, outer gods, elder gods, whatever, that actually is interested in humanity. Cthulhu does not care about humanity. He's here, you know, he has cultists, he doesn't give a shit about them. He doesn't... He'll make you go insane, he'll eat some, whatever, that's about it. He doesn't really care about us. Azathoth, he doesn't think about us, he doesn't really probably even know we exist, maybe he does, he's mindless. Yog-Sothoth maybe will make some deals, but that's partly because he wants to, you know, have a gate open on Earth so he can come back and flood the planet and take it over to continue cosmic conquest and stuff like that. Actually, as a side note, one thing I read... Oh, man, I don't know where I read that. But it was like... It was like a question of, like... It was like... Why are these cosmic entities so interested in... And, like, collected around Earth? And the answer was like... Well, they're not. They just... This is just the status quo... number of entities that are everywhere, you know. So you go to any planet and it's like this, you know. Which is kind of terrifying to think, but Nyarlathotep is different because he is... This might go into my personal views, but I don't think it's that far-fetched as a fact. I would say he's probably the most intelligent entity in the cosmos. Probably. Yog-Sothoth is definitely... I mean, Yog-Sothoth is all-knowing. He knows the gate. He is the gate. But I don't think Yog-Sothoth is as successful at what he does as Nyarlathotep. And again, I don't want to get into my personal views, but bottom line, Nyarlathotep is very intelligent, and so his interest in Earth is very dangerous because he knows what he can do with us, and he possesses the knowledge and ability to fuck with us. And so it's not a good thing that he's interested in Earth. And so the other fact about him is that he's known as the god of 1,000 masks. And that basically means he can take 1,000 different forms. And that's just an arbitrary number. It's probably, you know, infinite number of masks. And so how that affects the campaign is the god of the bloody tongue is Nyarlathotep. The Black Pharaoh is Nyarlathotep. The bloated woman is Nyarlathotep. The haunter of the darkness is Nyarlathotep. These are all the same guy. And so you have all hundreds of different cults across the planet. They all worship the same motherfucker. And they might not all know they're worshiping the same guy, but they are. And so he's basically playing the entire field at all times. Okay, so that's all the facts. Now my personal view, this is where it gets interesting. My personal view of Nyarlathotep and how I'm going to run this campaign is he's basically like if Satan and Loki had a kid, and he's lived for trillions and trillions of years just to fuck with people. That's my personal view of Nyarlathotep. And this probably wouldn't be, maybe it would be Lovecraft's view. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, so who cares? But he doesn't really care about anything as far as what's going on here. Humanity is just a tiny, tiny blip in all of existence. And he's been here for trillions of years. He's seen everything. Humanity is just a fun little diversion for him. He doesn't care about really taking over Earth. Why would he? What? Earth, humanity is going to end in, just that. So who cares? And so the overarching goal, and one of these times for these Secrets of Role-Playing, I'll talk about the whole plot of this, but the overarching goal is to open a grand gate that will bring forth the Great Old Ones and the Outer Gods and everything, and bring them all into the planet and take it over and wipe out humanity. Nyarlathotep doesn't give a fuck about that. Why would he? So, basically, in almost a meta sense, this is a game to him. Just as it's a game to me. It's very interesting. So, he's basically just having fun with the whole thing, just like I am. It's very cool. And so, yeah, if he really cared about succeeding, he would resurrect Makunga, and he would smite every investigator as soon as they took any interest in the case. Oh, I hear the cult of the bloody tongue is behind this. Whoosh! You're dead. What does he care? Because I guess, it's a personal opinion of his power, but Makunga says, you remember this. Makunga, here, where did it say this? I'm going to find this out. Okay, if close to death, his last act will be to contact Nyarlathotep and pray for vengeance from the god. The god has a 1% chance of agreeing to do this. And so, this campaign implies that Nyarlathotep has the power to avenge people's deaths. How does he do that, I guess, is up to you. I guess if you assume his only power on Earth is to send visions and mess with people's intellect, but that's kind of wrong, in a way, because he does appear at various points in his masked form, and he can kill you very easily. So, I don't know. I assume him to be kind of all-powerful, and he's just kind of having fun with it. That's my personal view of it. And so that's kind of dangerous for the investigators, but I think it adds a very cool aspect to the campaign, where, yeah, in a sense, it's about, oh, we gotta save the world, we can stop this guy and thwart evil. And it's yeah, he's basically just kind of, moving pieces around a board. That's what Nyarlathotep is doing. And he's just laughing his ass off. And so, yeah, he's going to contact the investigators at various points, offer them bargains. Of course, the bargains are going to, backfire on them all the time because he's laughing his ass off about it. And so, I feel that perhaps I kind of jumped the gun on doing the dream vision to Ziggy's character, where he saw the Black Pharaoh. That may have been a bit too soon. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. But I did do it, and so I told Ziggy, I told him, I wanted you to actually question whether that was an actual dream vision, or if it was just Reginald's imagination. Because what does that actually mean then, if Reginald is ever in a situation and he calls out the Black Pharaoh's name? And that's what I really can't wait for. I want them to get kind of into the rituals and shit. I want them to be desperate, because that's where Nyarlathotep is going to have his most fun. Because if this just carries out with no incident and, his little cultists, oh, the Great Gate, and they summon and the world is over, he's just kind of like, meh. Alright, what's the next species for me to fuck with? That's kind of how I treat it. One thing I read just the other night was an article, like some rambling article, where it claimed that Nyarlathotep was actually Paul the Apostle. And he started Christianity just for kicks. And slightly for his own amusement and to twist to his own purposes. But I was like, that's exactly what happened in my Call of Cthulhu universe. Is he started Christianity, he was Buddha, he was Muhammad, he was Gandhi, he was all these people just for having fun. Because he can appear in any form he wants. He doesn't give a shit. And so, man, like, I'm going to try and slip hints into the campaign if I can. That's just going to blow people's minds. Ziggy's character is like a devout Catholic. Like, okay, how would you feel if your religion was basically founded by an outer god for fun? Oh my gosh. Okay. So that's Nyarlathotep. We'll go into more detail later, but about the overarching plot, and because the plot will still go on, of course. I mean, just because it's a game doesn't mean he's just gonna put an end to it. No, this game will be played out. But for now, we're gonna go over to the massively filled board, and we're gonna discuss everything going on in the great city of London. So let's go over to it. Alright, so let's dive right into it. So it's a filled board. And you can tell I started here, because there's way more room than down here in the little corner. But, okay. So first thing is the Mask of Hayama, which, yes, to all of our disappointment, Ren had enough of that shit, and he threw it into the water. I guess some people just don't like any fun. I don't know. I think we were having fun, but... 5 visions. People put it on 5 times. 2 of them were Nodens, and the other 3 had successful sanity checks. I didn't freaking believe it, man. That was bullshit. I was ready the entire time to dish out that 1d100 loss, but nobody got it. So I was like, fuck that. I'm not done with this mask. So he chucked it in, and there's a Deep One network everywhere across the planet. And like I said, Nyarlathotep is in here for fun. He knows about the mask. Of course he does. In fact, I could be a real asshole and say he was impersonating Nodens when they had a vision of Nodens. I could do that if I really wanted to. That's what I'm saying. But regardless, he knows about the mask. It's fun. It's fun for him. Like it's fun for me. Basically, think of me as Nyarlathotep from here on out. Alright? So, he's going to contact the Deep Ones, because he can do that. Why wouldn't he? He's going to say, hey, go here, there's a mask. And take it to this place. Drop it off to this guy. He can do that. And so, Deep Ones are mostly connected with Innsmouth. I kind of assume that everybody watching this knows what Deep Ones are. I would hope so. Basically, as a quick recap, they're just immortal underwater sea creatures that are linked with Dagon and Cthulhu. But they're mostly connected with Innsmouth near Massachusetts, but they're everywhere. They're across the entire planet. And so he's just going to tell them near London, like, hey, find this mask. Like, he can point right to where it is. He knows, he's omniscient. He's omniscient. He knows everything. Maybe not past and future. I don't know. Maybe he does. But he's omniscient. Alright. So, points him right to it. And deliver it to Edward Gavigan. I don't know if he, like, stands there and says, deliver this to Edward Gavigan. But maybe it's just some weird dream and they follow it. Whatever. Or, fuck, he just possesses one of them. I don't know. And so it's going to be sitting from here on out in Gavigan's estate in Essex, which we'll talk about much later in this video. But I don't care what I have to do. They're going to find that mask again, alright? And they're going to see it hanging on a wall, and they're just going to be, no. No. They'll know that they cannot ever get rid of this thing. I will laugh when that happens. Okay, so that's the mask. We have not seen the last of it, trust me. Okay, so these next three sections are basically the three stories that Mickey Mahoney is going to give them, that Jackson Elias looked over. And so, two of these, as I mentioned, are red herrings. They don't really have any connection to the overarching plot, you know, Nyarlathotep or anything like that. Serpent in Soho is perhaps more valuable to them because I can pretty easily make a link to the rest of it. Derbyshire Monster or Derbyshire, whatever I think it's Derbyshire. That one has absolutely no connection. Complete red herring, waste of time to get them all killed. So that's just fun. But, yeah, so Jackson Elias looked up about these three stories, but he didn't follow up on any of them because he got chased out of the city by Gavigan. He was just too afraid to stick around. So the first one is Serpent in Soho. And they're going to read an article from The Scoop about a local artist who paints kind of these monstrous works of art. Like, just terrifying, really. And it's got local art collectors just abuzz with interest, and they're flooding to his place to buy all this stuff, and it's really just crazy art. And that should definitely pique their interest, as I think it does most groups. And so there is an address on file, a 6 Holbein Muse. And so when they get there, I assume they're going to be cordial. They may not, but I guess it depends on how paranoid the group is. Real experienced Call of Cthulhu players might go in just guns blazing, because, well, you know. But I assume this group will be nice about it. So they'll knock on the door, and they'll be greeted by an elderly woman. And she'll ask if they want to buy any paintings, her son's paintings. And if they say yes, she'll show them through the gallery. She'll introduce them to Miles Shipley, who is the artist. He's quite insane. Like, blatantly. Like, he's trembling, and he'll kind of do some twitches, but he'll be like, my art is incredible, isn't it? You know, they don't even need psychology rolls to tell he's insane. That's what I'm talking about. And so he'll brag extensively about how awesome his art is. Like, I want them to just kind of hate this guy and mistrust him completely. But, you know, they can't just stab him or something. Maybe they can. And he'll show them to all of his art. And as I said, he's got it's going to be about 36 pieces of art up in this big gallery. And so everyone that they look at, per the campaign, actually, if I can, I'm going to look this up because it's pretty crazy. Yeah, so, well, actually, each tier, okay, 4 tiers of paintings. Each tier contains 1d4 plus 3. So that would max out at 28. So it's more than, no, okay. Yes. So it's not, it's quite a bit. It'll probably be about 24. Each one they look at, they're going to have to do a sanity check for a 0/1d3 loss. The thing is, you don't tell them right when they look at the first one to roll sanity, because then they're going to be like, oh, we don't look. No, you just let them... And the companion that I have has descriptions for every single one. Like, it has 20-some descriptions of paintings that are all just insane shit. So it's they're gonna want to hear all these descriptions because they're so interesting. And they all describe various mythos entities, and one of them is a painting which shows the mountain of the Black Wind in Kenya. And there's like a figure of the bloody tongue, the god of the bloody tongue. And so that's a very useful painting to see and perhaps even take with them, buy it. But to get that one's going to be like in the middle somewhere, so they're going to have to kind of comb through to find it. And yeah, so if you're a real dick, you wait till they look at every one, and then afterwards you say roll 20 sanity checks. I don't know if I can really be that much of a dick. We'll see. It depends on what mood I'm in. It's going to cost them sanity no matter what. Like, yeah, it's going to cost quite a bit. Maybe when they look at the first 10, then I might do it. But, yeah. And so, they're going to tell that these, like, something fishy is definitely going on. And once they look at the paintings, and they see how insane this guy is, and he's painting, you know, dimensional shamblers or some ghouls or some shit, they're going to know something's up. And so, what is up? Well, his mother, Bertha Shipley, is not actually alive anymore, unfortunately. She was killed. She was killed by a humanoid known as Sethasa. I have a picture here, although I doubt it's going to focus. Okay, you can kind of see it there. And so, Sethasa is High Priest of the Serpent People, which makes him pretty damn powerful. Sethasa is, for the most part, immortal. They list it as semi-immortal. And, so Sethasa just kind of has been around for a long time, and, he has a painting. It's a magical painting. Unlike all the other ones, this is the only magical painting. And it's kept in a closet behind a sheet. And this painting, when stared at for a significant amount of time, a minute or so, will suck the person staring at it into the painting. And the painting shows like a... how does it describe it? I don't know what it... oh, it's the era of the dinosaurs. That's what it describes it as. So, you know, the Jurassic period or whatever. Or I don't think that's actually... what is the term for that? The Cretaceous? I don't know. The Jurassic Park era, okay? That's what they're talking about. And so... it teleports you to like a stone altar that's like a little island, and out of the water comes a bunch of serpent people which eat you. And so Sethasa uses that to basically send food back to his people, his serpent people friends, because he's the high priest. And so he uses Miles, who he's completely brainwashed, and you know he's made him insane. He's killed his mother, takes her form, and so Miles goes out and gets prostitutes and stuff, brings them back, they kill him, they send him back to to the serpent people, and they feed them. And so that's basically what Sethasa does now, is he just kind of gets prostitutes, sends them back there, and just kind of, lives. It's not a very interesting life, but it's a life. He's been through a lot of shit. He's got a Cthulhu Mythos score of 45. And so this is, it's a very small, that's basically all there is to it, for the most part. So it's really up to how the players handle this. If they want to break in and stuff like that, that's when it gets complicated. If they just go in, they buy a painting, and, they buy the Mountain of Black Winds, and then they leave, that's pretty much it. Sethasa's not going to follow them or anything. It's just, I don't think they'll stop there, because how could you? Something is clearly going on here. This guy's clearly linked to the Kenyans and stuff. He's drawing the Mountain of the Black Winds. And so, Sethasa is very dangerous. If he bites you, you're probably dead. For the most part. He also knows a lot of spells. He knows Call Azathoth. Think about that shit. He could call Azathoth and end the world if he really felt like it. He doesn't, because that wouldn't be good. But, yeah. They give a bunch of spells. He would obviously know a lot more, because I like everybody knowing Fist of Yog-Sothoth. But the real power thing, the real artifact here is the magical painting. If they happen to stare at it for a significant amount of time, and Miles probably won't reveal his hand. The two of them won't reveal it. Just, hey, look at this painting. Because then, if one gets sucked in and the others run away, their gig is kind of up. But if it's just kind of one person that goes over there, and Miles and Sethasa feel that this guy's kind of just a loser or something, they'll be like, well, we have a special painting, my masterpiece. Show it to me. Here it is. And then if they stare at it and they get sucked in, they're pretty much dead. It says, the investigator in the painting cannot see back into the garret. There is no way back. The painting has become the world, and all about him stretch the swamps and skies of a long-vanished earth. It is now the era of the dinosaurs. After an investigator is sent through the picture, there is a 50% chance every 30 minutes that 1d8 serpent people emerge from the waters at that island's edge. If the transported investigator moves off the island, swimming 50 feet through water infested with venomous serpents, his or her player must successfully roll 1d6 dodge rolls or the investigator is bitten and dies. If he or she makes it to the boggy shore, the chance of the serpent people showing up remains the same. Victims of the painting are probably lost for good, perhaps killed by the serpent people as sacrifices. That's it. That's all it really says. There's no way back. And so, a very, very, very nice DM, or if there was a player that had survived the entire time so far and really loved his character, you might be able to conceive a way, I might do it if they, Sethasa's not, invincible or anything. They could kick his ass. He's still got 10 HP and 1 armor or something like that. They could blast him in the chest or whatever. But if they bully him into talking or something, he might say that, only one living person can be sent back at a time. So you could replace your friend if you wish. I might do something evil like that and be like, how horrifying. I guess if you're really freaking valorous, man, you could do it, but I don't know if any of our players would do it. And if you're really, really kind, you may say, there's a portal in the distance if you can just get there. But, no, for me, I'll either just say they're dead, or if they bully Sethasa, I might say that, because that's interesting and funny. But, yeah, so if they take the painting somehow, if they steal it or, whatever, buy it, no, they wouldn't be able to buy it. They wouldn't sell that. But if they steal it, they could use it as a weapon, conceivably. If they kidnap Gavigan or some shit, be like, look into this painting! Then yeah, he's done. He's out of the campaign. There's no way Gavigan's coming back. He knows spells, but shit, man, he's done. Or I could be a real dick and say, Nyarlathotep's just like, nope. Go back. I don't know. There's so much room for fun. Okay, so that's a serpent in Soho. Pretty dangerous, partly because of the painting, partly because it's Sethasa. It can definitely mess them up if they're not careful. The Derbyshire Monster. This is the werewolf one. So they'll be heading out of London for this one to the village of Lesser Edale. Just a very, very quaint British village. About 30 homes, a pub, a church, one store, a veterinary clinic. The residents are very kind of just down-to-earth farming people. You know, they don't want any of that London nonsense. They're just out here and minding their own business. And so they're somewhat willing to talk about the werewolf events and stuff. But if the investigators go in just like cowboys, like, hey, yeah, we're Americans, what's going on? Yeah, they're not going to say jack shit. They're probably going to get like lynched in the middle of the night or something. Constable Tumwell is the main police there. And he's a good guy. You know, he's not evil or anything, but he's kind of incompetent. Like, he believes that he defeated the monster because he thought it was a wild dog and he shot it with his gun. So he's that kind of guy from every horror movie. He's the dumb police chief, like, that doesn't believe anything. And so the main thing here is Castle Plum, which is up on a big bluff nearby. Very, very nice looking castle. And this is the home of the Vane family, which, that would be a true test of how well their note-taking is. If they recall that Roger Carlyle's original surname is Vane, that would be amazing. I'd give them sanity points just for that shit. I don't know if I even mentioned that. I wonder if I did. I can't mention it now because it would be too recent. I don't know if I did. Well, it doesn't mean anything. This was the Carlyle's original family way back from here. They changed their name when they came to America. But anyways, so the Vane family, Sir Arthur Vane is 67 years old. He's the patriarch. He's got a son, Lawrence, who's 23, just recently graduated from Oxford. So they may have some bonding things there because a few members of our group graduated from Oxford, funnily enough. And then there's Eloise, who's 21, just recently had her 21st birthday, and she's a werewolf. Yeah, she's got a curse. They might ask Sir Arthur Vane about this. Basically, one of the Vane family had a young witch burnt at the stake, and the mother of the witch put the mark of the beast on all daughters of the Vane family. And so, for centuries, whenever a blood daughter of the Vanes reached age 21, she became a werewolf. And so, they would either, from then on, for centuries, they would either lock up women during full moons, or they would just kill female babies, which is kind of fucked up. And then for 4 generations, no Vane daughters were born. And so they've kind of forgotten about the curse for the most part. But as of very recently, Sir Arthur Vane and Lawrence have kind of started to look through old stuff, and kind of I think they've pieced it together at this point that, oh yeah, there's that curse that we thought was just bullshit. Alright, so Eloise is cursed as a werewolf. So every full moon she's going to turn into a werewolf. And this is it's all traditional werewolf stuff. You know, I'm not reinventing werewolves here. It's all everything you've heard of. The only thing is the curse is not transmitted by bite. It's a magical curse. That's the only real difference. So they can get bitten, they won't turn into, although I can scare the hell out of them, though. Like, you feel like, oh, maybe you want to look at the moon. So, there's no cure. Not in this book at all is there any cure. Yeah, I don't think it mentions any. I thought there was somewhere where it kind of like lamented that there was no cure. I don't know. Yeah. But there's no cure. Because it's just a magical thing. Now, of course, it's completely up to the DM if they want to put in a cure. There is a link to this guy, the local Reverend, Jeremy Stratton, who's linked to an association called the Derwent Valley Order of the Golden Druid, which is about as shady as you can freaking get. And so, if I was nice and I was into kind of happy, you win and stuff like that, yeah, there may be a ritual that could cure it. There isn't, because I'm not into that happy bullshit. Even if there was a cure, Nyarlathotep would be like, nah, fuck that. Which would be even more dickish to me, so I'm not going to go that far. But no, there's no cure that works. So it says that silver and fire will damage or kill this werewolf, but nothing else has more than momentary effect. Now, there's no knowledge of silvers. I mean, there's knowledge of silver, but not that it does anything to werewolves. Like I said before, that knowledge does not exist until about 15 years from now. So, I'm obviously going to shut down any metagame into that bullshit. It's not. You're not going to think of silver. Get over it. It's not going to happen. It would have to be just a stroke of luck, but even then, how can you do it without saying your metagame? So it's not going to happen. So fire can work, but here's my problem with the whole thing. Eloise, as a werewolf, is very dangerous, as in, she can rip you apart. No problem. Like, she can wipe out the team. But she has 13 health, and she has 1 point of armor plus 1 HP regeneration per round. Which is fine if you're going up against her with a club or unarmed or something. The problem is Alfred. Really. He has an elephant gun, and he's allowed to keep it. He's going to use it immediately. And the elephant gun does 3d6 plus 3 or plus 4 damage, which means at minimum it's going to do 7, which is over half. Well, at minimum it's going to do 6, which is about half of her health. It's not going to do minimum. It's probably going to one-shot it. And so, I don't want... That would ruin the whole... What the fuck's the point, then, if you just one-shot it? So, I'm going to say, yeah, guns don't do jack shit. Get over it. So, that leaves pretty much fire as their only bet. They have to burn her alive. Which I feel is kind of appropriate, because this whole curse started by burning a young woman alive. So, it's almost poetic justice in some sense. And so, the question is, do they try to save the girl or just put her down? How do they save the girl? They really can't. That's why it's so messed up, and that's why I like it. So, putting her down, her father and brother are not going to be okay with that. Burning their sister and daughter alive. And if they do kill her, as soon as she dies, she's going to turn back to human form. And so that's just going to mess up. Oh man, it's going to be... There's going to be... No matter what, if they kill her, there's sanity losses. I don't give a shit. You just killed a 21-year-old girl who's basically innocent for the most... Like, it's not like she's doing this on purpose. This was a curse from 300 years ago. So it's all very beautiful. The other element, this is not in the book at all. This is something I'm including because I like it. There's going to be a rival big game hunter on the scene. I don't know where I read about this, but it was mentioned at some point that I got the idea. So, Alfred is, of course, a big game hunter. He's been all around the place. So, sure, there's other big game hunters, and you hear about this crazy monster going wild in a British village. There's going to be another big game hunter there. And so, Alfred is going to have heard of this guy. Sir Henry von Pelt. Or Van Pelt. I think it's Van Pelt. The guy from Jumanji, you remember. I think his name was Van Pelt. I don't think his first name was Henry. But I just threw that in there. And so, yeah, Alfred has heard of this guy. He's seen him, they're acquaintances. They're not friends. I'm going to tell Ren all this. Because this guy's pretty fucked up in the head. He's a sadist. Like, on safari in Africa, if he can't find something to really, an animal to shoot, he'll maybe just set some Africans to run loose and... He's kind of like that. and maybe he'll kind of, you know, throw them on the fire after or something. Yeah, he's that kind of guy. And so Alfred is kind of have heard rumors about this guy and what he does. He's not going to like him. I'm going to tell you, you do not like this guy. And so I'm curious as to how that's going to work out. If Henry finds out that Eloise is the vampire, or the werewolf, he'll put a bullet in her. As soon as fucking possible. He doesn't give a shit. This is a monster, put it down. And so if they allow him to do that, they take a sanity loss. Because it's pretty much the same thing. So, man, yeah. I like that element because that's really cool. But that's an interesting one. Like I said, it has no connection to anything. It's just kind of, hey, here's an adventure. But for the next couple sessions, we don't have Olaf. And so I guess if another person is not there, like where you have 2 people missing, I might say, hey, you might want to check out this one. Because I'm the DM and I said so. But, yeah. Alright, moving on. The final story is Slaughter in Soho. And this is the main connected story to all the events. And so the big person here is Inspector James Barrington, who Kensington told them about. He's a very by-the-book cop. Unlike Lieutenant Poole, who just kind of worried about getting ahead. He was just worried about his career and all kind of, you know, he's about to be pulled off the case, and he just wants to be promoted, and okay, I'm gonna let you guys loose. You do some investigating and stuff like that. Yeah, James is not gonna be like that at all. He's not gonna be really their buddy. He's just gonna say, you bring me some evidence, we'll see, you know, we'll talk. You know, I know some shit, maybe you know some shit. You stay out of trouble or I'm gonna arrest you. He's kind of like that. And so he did speak with Jackson Elias. How much he reveals about that conversation and what he knows is up to the conversation that the investigators have with him. He's not going to play all his cards and reveal his whole hand right away. Not to just these yahoos. You know, even if Alfred is a member of the Parliament, that's great. Go do some governing. I'm on police work here, you know. So, what does he know? Jackson told him about the fact that there's a cult operating out of London called the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh. And so James went to Edward Gavigan, who is, if anybody in London knows about Egypt and Egyptian stuff, it's Gavigan. So he went to him, asked him about the cult, and Gavigan denied that the cult has any modern-day equivalent, or that the method of murder imitated those of the ancient cult. Gavigan implied that Elias was a sensation-seeking profiteer. And so the whole news story is about a bunch of murders. 24 people have died, all with similar circumstances. Basically beaten severely with like a blunt object and then stabbed through the heart. And so the majority of the victims are Egyptian. So they're called the Egyptian murders in the press. And so this one is probably going to spark the most interest from the crew because it's so similar to what they have experienced in New York. You know, cults-based murder, you know, ethnic people going on, you know, stuff like that. So this one they'll probably follow up first, but we'll see. And so he also knows about this place called the Blue Pyramid in Soho. This is an Egyptian night spot. So this is where most of the local Egyptians hang out to kind of party. And so many of those that were murdered frequented the club. And so the police staked it out, but they didn't find anything. The third thing is one of the victims, before he died, reportedly cried out, "Hotep! Hotep!" Yeah, Hotep. And so, according to Edward Gavigan, who, you know, James also asked about, it's an ancient Egyptian word meaning rest or peace. It's actually not wrong. But again, that's kind of the beauty of Nyarlathotep. That's not his, like, real fucking name. Like, his mom didn't name him Nyarlathotep. That's just what the ancients of ancients called him in, like, the Necronomicon. So, yeah, it like I said, it's just like him to pick a name that ends in peace. That's what I hope, you know, that's just what I'm saying. And the fourth thing is he interviewed a spice dealer named Tufik al-Sayed, who had once guided an Egyptian expedition. Tufik denied that the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh still existed, and a police tale learned nothing. My only question is why would he interview Tufik al-Sayed? Like, that's the only part I don't really understand. Like, obviously Tufik is very important to the whole thing, but there's no reason for James to interview him particularly. He just owns a spice shop. I guess because he guided an Egyptian expedition. But if Gavigan didn't know anything, why the hell? I don't know. So anyways, the Blue Pyramid. The owner is a guy named Abdul Nawisha, who's a fat guy. He's not a cultist, but he does know about the cult. He knows some of their activities and what they're doing, but he will not cross them in any way. Like, they would have to, like, beat him almost to death or something for him to cross the cult, because he knows if he crosses the cult, he's dead anyways. Gavigan does not accept that shit. And so he'll try to impede the investigation if they're asking too many questions. And while they're there, if they hang out and they're asking questions, they have to ask questions because otherwise there's no way for this girl to know. But there's a girl there named Yalisha, whose boyfriend was killed, she claims, by the Brotherhood. And so she tells them that once a month a truck pulls up outside of the Blue Pyramid, and about 24 customers go into the truck, led by a guy named Tufik al-Sayed, and the truck goes out of London, according to her, although she doesn't know where. And so the truck actually goes to Gavigan's estate for a ritual, which happens every month. Okay, I think I'm running close on time, so I'm going to try to buzz through this. Like I said, it's a loaded video. Okay, Tufik. Like I said, he hates Gavigan. They're complete rivals. I'm going to play out the shit of that. Like, they will both point fingers at each other. He's the leader of the cult. You got to get him. Because they're both going to point suspicion away from them and to the other guy because they want them dead. He owns a spice shop in Soho. If they search through there, they'll find that it contains the Mirror of Gaul, cult robes, a skull cap, an ankh, Egyptian scroll, 2 magical scepters, and some vials of special shit. And the Mirror of Gaul is a very, very, very powerful artifact that can be used to spy on or kill any person or creature anywhere at a cost. Like, it could go to any plane of existence if it wanted. Like, you could spy on Nyarlathotep. Don't do that. Don't do that. But, yeah, so if they got a hold of this thing and they wanted to kill Edward Gavigan from, afar, just sitting in some room, they could potentially do it. It has a cost, of which they may be a little bit squeamish to do. But, yeah, it's very powerful. Tufik will not give it up easily. Alright, the Penyu Foundation. They know about this place. They know it's pretty critical to what's going on here, so they're going to be checking it out. They'll probably talk to Edward Gavigan, because that's the logical thing. Gavigan is going to act very cordial to all of them. He's very professional. He's a very upstanding gentleman. He's going to be sympathetic about Jackson. He's like, oh, Jackson died. That's a shame. He was a good man. He was a good man. He'll be like that. They probably won't buy it, but he's going to try to throw them off. And it's basically, for the most part, whatever they ask after the conversation, he will send cultists to tail them around town. Because they're going to ask about the Carlisle expedition, I guarantee it. So, yeah, he's kind of paranoid and precautious, so he'll send people to follow him from then on. So they're kind of screwed. Like I said, he might finger point to Tufik. He may just deny that the cult exists entirely, like he did to the police. Or if he sees that these people could be dangerous, kind of wild, he may point them at Tufik and say, well, I've heard rumors that the cult is still being operated by a man named Tufik al-Sayed. So that might happen. Otherwise, he's a rather boring speaker. He'll talk to them about Egyptology all day, but it's very dry stuff. None of them would be really interested in it. So we're going to see what they make of the guy. He's definitely very evil, very powerful, but he's going to put on a good show. The foundation itself is rather secure. Not cameras. Guardsmen kind of patrolling, secure doors, stuff like that. There is a secret room in the basement, although it's difficult to get into. It contains kind of Mythos-related artwork, perhaps from Shipley. So that's the connection to Serpent and Soho if I need one. It contains a statue of a bloated woman from Shanghai. This will cause sanity loss. Again, this is another form of Nyarlathotep. It's a powerful statue. There's also a statue of Cthulhu, which is nice to see, from Australia. So this is their first link to Australia. It'll have like a shipping address on it. It'll have 15 scrolls in various languages. Arabic, French, maybe not French, Egyptian, of course. I'm running out of time, but I really want to look this up. Arabic, Latin, medieval French, Old English, and Egyptian hieroglyphics. And so a bunch of them will contain various spells that they could learn, which is I love. There's also a few books there: the Kahard Fragments, the Book of Dizan, the actual Liber Evonis, and Cults de Ghouls, which I threw in there just for Ziggy's benefit because he really wants to find the book. Those are all very powerful or very important Mythos texts. Teach more spells, lose more sanity. And then there's also the Powder of Ibn Ghazi there, which I have no idea why it's there. It's funny to me, but it is there. If they want to use it. There is a potential use for it. Yeah, I'm running out of time to really talk about it, but there is a potential use for it. I just love that they threw it in there. Okay, the final thing is Gavigan's estate, which is out in Essex. It's a very remote location. The only way, well, they might find it on their own if they're really doing some research, but otherwise the best way is to follow Tufik in his truck. And so every month, when Tufik goes out there with the whole group, they have either a sex or a death rite. And so sex, they get a bunch of like imprisoned people that they've kidnapped, and they tie them up, and they either ritualistically murder them, or they summon a bunch of servitors of the outer gods, like just horrible abominations. And these abominations have sex with these imprisoned people. Sanity loss all the way around all day, man. It's terrible. I can go into grisly detail about that shit. And so hopefully they don't plan on actually trying to stop that, because that's a little tricky without either the entire Scotland Yard or artillery. But if they go into the estate and they poke around while the rites are going on, and they're like looking out the windows while they're scooping about, and they see just flames and screams and yeah, it's gonna be great. If they poke around in there, they find a massive loot hoard. Like, I gotta find statuary, paintings, jewelry. The mere quantity of this stash should dismay the investigators, showing that the cult is powerful and numerous. So they lose sanity just for looking through all his shit because of how much there is. Like all kind of mythos related and just terror. Like, holy shit, there's so much there. Like, this guy's powerful, man. There's also a ledger which gives a bunch of different shipping information to the other places. So again, reconfirms the Shanghai stuff, the Australia stuff if they didn't find it before. There's more books and scrolls, more spells, more all kinds of stuff like that. And there's all sorts of spell ingredients there. And so this shows that Gavigan could fuck their day up. And so the whole place, their whole time, the Gavigan's estate is the kind of the finale of London. And so it's very dangerous for both their physical health and their mental health. If they watch the rites, oh god, that's terrible. If they try to interrupt the rites, yeah, bad stuff. Or Nyarlathotep could just be being a dick that day and be like, "Hey Gavigan, you see those things? You see those bushes over there? There's like 4 guys watching you. Go get them." I probably wouldn't do that, but you can see what I mean. If I'm having a bad day, Nyarlathotep's having a bad day. So, yes, that's London in a nutshell. Again, there's a lot more to it, but I do not have time or the board space to talk about it all. Bottom line is, it's very, very interesting, very, very dangerous. It's going to be crazy. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this, but London has pretty much the highest death count in the campaign, although the rest is all pretty damn deadly as well. But I guess perhaps it's the most deadly because New York was kind of easy and the investigators might be a little bit too cocky. Makunga and Edward Gavigan are miles and miles and miles apart. But yeah, I'm running out of voice here, and I think that's about all there is to say. I am very excited. Despite them getting rid of the mask, it will be back. So, yeah. This is actually, these videos are really good for me to kind of compound everything I know and what's about to go on and what is going on. And so, these are good for me, and I hope they're entertaining for you as well. But, alright, so, my name is Mang. This has been Secrets of Roll Manging, and I will see you fine folks in a week.